Welcome to this explainer. Today we're peeling back the layers of a literal 12th century marvel that continues to totally baffle modern scientists, historians, and millions of devotees alike. We're talking about the Puri Jagannath Temple in Odisha, India. We're going to explore its unknown facts, the architectural anomalies that honestly just defy logic, and the deeply guarded ancient engineering that keeps this massive operation running day in and out. Okay, let's dive right in.
Let's kick things off with a pretty staggering physical fact. The main temple spire, which, remember, was built over 8 centuries ago, towers an immense 214 feet into the sky. Just to put that into perspective, you're looking at roughly the height of a 20-story modern building. And this was constructed way before the advent of cranes or modern machinery.
But here's where it gets wild. Physicists and visitors alike observe something that honestly seems to break the fundamental laws of optics. Think about it. A 20-story structure standing in the blazing Indian sun, casting absolutely no visible shadow on the ground. At any time of the day, no matter where the sun is positioned in the sky, the shadow simply does not appear. No way, right?
And you know, this optical illusion, it's just one example of how ancient engineering completely baffles modern science here. Take the Sudarshan chakra at the very peak of the dome. It's a 2-ton wheel made of an octo-alloy, hoisted all the way up there back in the 1100s. From anywhere in the city of Puri, this giant wheel creates a perfect visual marvel. It always appears to be facing you directly. Oh, and right beside it is a flag that miraculously flutters in the exact opposite direction of the prevailing wind. Every single day, a priest climbs that 214-foot dome, without safety harnesses, by the way, just to change it.
And the mysteries, they actually extend to acoustics, too. Picture this. You're walking through the temple's main entrance, known as the Lion's Gate. Outside, you can clearly hear the loud, crashing waves of the nearby ocean. But the literal second you take a single step inside that gate, the roaring ocean is instantly and completely muted. It wraps you in this sudden, profound spiritual silence. Step back out, and bam, the crash of the waves instantly returns.
All right, that brings us to part 1, engineering the Holy Kitchen and the Mahaprasad mystery. Let's move inward from that awe-inspiring exterior and step into this bustling, smoky, highly functional marvel where the sacred food is actually prepared.
This kitchen is officially the largest in the world. And get this, without using any modern analytics, machinery, or even gas stoves, this kitchen miraculously feeds anywhere from 10,000 to over 100,000 people daily. But the most astounding part? There is zero food wasted. Whether a few thousand show up or an unexpected crowd of 100,000 arrives, the food perfectly matches the demand. It relies entirely on the servitor's spiritual intuition and divine calculation.
Now, you might have heard this popular myth about how they supposedly stack 7 clay pots vertically, and magically the top pot cooks first. But recent interviews with intimate temple servitors, referencing the official temple record called the Satvalipi, reveal a far more brilliant thermodynamic reality. It isn't magic, folks. It's an absolute masterclass in ancient Kalinga engineering.
So instead of stacking pots in some precarious vertical tower, the engineers actually designed 242 specialized clay hearths, each shaped beautifully like a lotus flower. These lotus hearths perfectly utilize a central space surrounded by 6 outer slots. This incredibly efficient design allows the cooks to heat 9 clay pots simultaneously over traditional firewood, distributing thermal energy flawlessly. It's just brilliant.
So as we're taking in the sheer, flawless precision of this massive kitchen operation and the centuries-old rituals keeping it alive, it begs a deeper question, right? Who exactly are the people running this sacred operation? You might assume it's entirely managed by Orthodox priests, but the truth is actually far more fascinating.
Which leads us to Section 2, uncovering secret tribal origins and a radical inclusivity. Peeling back another layer, we leave Orthodox Brahmanical traditions behind to discover the temple's profound and honestly unexpected tribal DNA. The Jagannath cult is actually this massive fusion of indigenous forest traditions and classical Hinduism. Because the core caretakers of these deities, they aren't your typical priests. They're known as the Dayapatis. They are the direct descendants of an ancient Sabara tribal chief named Biswabasu, who originally worshipped the deity in secret out in the forest. Today, this super unique union of Brahmin and tribal lineages forms the literal lifeblood of the temple's most secretive rituals.
And it's exactly this radical inclusivity that draws millions of people of all backgrounds to the temple's annual Rath Yatra festival.
During this event, the deities are brought out on towering, monumental wooden chariots pulled by massive crowds. In fact, the sheer momentum and unstoppable nature of these giant chariots so overwhelmed British observers back in the day that it literally gave the English language the word juggernaut.
This idea of inclusivity, it is literally built into the fabric of the deities themselves. The deliberate choice to carve Lord Jagannath and his siblings from simple neem wood, rather than the gold, marble, or stone you typically see in grand temples, perfectly embodies this philosophy. Ancient texts state that neem wood is a universal material, making the deity accessible and open to worship by all castes and sections of society.
All right, moving on to part 3, the Nava Kalebara rebirth ritual, or the cycle of the sacred trees. This is the most sacred, heavily guarded, and mysterious inner layer of the temple's traditions. Because the deities are made of wood, they must naturally decay, right? So they have to be replaced in a grand, incredibly secretive rebirth ritual. Now, this rebirth isn't just scheduled randomly on a calendar. It's actually dictated by a highly specific, very rare astronomical occurrence. It only happens when the Hindu month of Ashada experiences a double full moon, like an extra leap month. Because of this, the Nava Kalebara takes place on a cyclical timeline of exactly 8, 12, or 19 years.
When that time finally comes, locating the exact new neem trees for the carving is, well, it's incredibly demanding. Search parties look for distinct, hyper-specific signs. For instance, the tree destined to become Lord Jagannath, it absolutely must have dark bark and exactly 4 main branches. It has to be located near a cremation ground, have an anthill nearby, and feature a snake hole right at its roots. Natural impressions of a conch shell and a wheel must be visible on the trunk, and no bird must have ever nested in its branches. Talk about a needle in a haystack.
Once these miraculous trees are finally found, they're brought back to Puri in small carts. And the carving process? It takes place inside a special temple garden called Koli Baikunta. For 21 days, the carvers operate under absolute secrecy. They are locked inside, completely isolated from the outside world. They undergo strict fasting, they sleep on the courtyard floor, and they're accompanied only by the continuous chanting of Vedic verses by priests right outside the doors.
Which brings us to our 4th and final mystery, the unseen life force, and transferring the Brahma Padartha. See, once the new wooden bodies are carved, they're really just empty vessels. The true essence of the ritual is the transfer of the Brahma Padartha, this unseen, ancient life force, from the old deities into the new ones.
This critical transfer happens on a specific night at exactly midnight. And to ensure absolute secrecy, the entire city of Puri undergoes a total electricity blackout. The streets, the buildings, and the massive temple complex itself are plunged into an ocean of absolute pitch-black darkness.
Inside the inner sanctum, only the Daitapati servitors, the tribal descendants we talked about, are allowed in. But here's the catch. Even they aren't allowed to see or feel it directly. They are heavily blindfolded, and their hands are tightly bound in thick layers of cloth. They reach into the chest of the old wooden deity, remove the Brahma Padartha, and place it into the new one. When interviewed, these servitors report a powerful, unexplainable physical sensation. They describe the object not as a piece of wood or stone, but possessing a living vibration, feeling exactly like a rabbit, jumping wildly in their hands. And to this very day, literally no one knows what it actually looks like.
Once that life force is transferred, the old wooden idols are technically considered lifeless, but they definitely aren't just discarded. Treating the old deities not just as sacred objects, but as beloved blood family members, the tribal servitors carefully bury them in the temple garden. Then, they observe 10 days of strict Hindu funeral mourning and purification, just exactly as anyone would for a deceased parent.
So as we step back out of the darkness and into the light, looking up at that massive, shadowless spire, it leaves us with a pretty profound question. Is the Jagannath Temple simply a place of myth and unexplained magic, or is it a brilliant testament to the absolute pinnacle of ancient engineering, perfectly intertwined with an enduring, profound spiritual inclusivity? Whatever you believe, the Juggernaut just keeps rolling, keeping its deepest secrets safely in the dark. Thanks for exploring this with me today, and keep questioning the wonders of our world.